is going to send a message to the billionaire class. You can't have it all.
I'm running for president of the United States because we have 4 beautiful kids and 7 incredible grandchildren. And I want to make sure that the country we leave them is a nation that we are proud of. My mother was born and raised in New York City. She died at the age of 46. We had a 3.5-room rent-controlled apartment. At that very early age, I think I began to realize the impact that lack of finances have on families. My father came to this country from Poland at the age of 17, worked every day of his life. I grew up in Brooklyn. Many of the families were immigrants, and they understood the importance of education. We don't have a strong economy unless we have a very well-educated workforce.
That is why I, as president, will fight to make tuition in public colleges and universities free, as well as substantially lower interest rates on student loans.
At the University of Chicago, I got involved in the civil rights movement. We ended up engaging in a sit-in demonstration. I believe that you're entitled to justice and to equal rights, whether you're black, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're gay, whether you're transgender. You are a human being. I went to Washington to demonstrate. We went out there on the mall. It was an extraordinary speech. I had the feeling that I was, at that particular moment, part of history. I ended up winning my first election as mayor of Burlington by 10 votes after a recount in an election that nobody thought we could win. I met Jane just about the time of the election. We have been together for 27 years.
As president, I will defend this nation, but I will do it responsibly. As a member of Congress, I voted against the war in Iraq, and that was the right vote.
I had serious doubts about what Bush and Cheney were telling us. And if you overthrew Saddam Hussein, you could bring a massive amount of instability into that region, and that it would not be quite as easy as people like Donald Rumsfeld and others were telling us. We have got to, as a moral responsibility, provide the best quality health care to men and women who put their lives on the line to defend us. John McCain and I put $5 billion into strengthening the VA so that any veteran who walks into a VA facility will get quality care in a timely manner. That was one of the major pieces of legislation passed in the last congressional session. I don't want to see people not go to the doctor when they're sick because they can't afford to pay the doctor's fees.
The United States must join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to all as a right.
Nothing is closer to my heart as someone who has kids besides the issue of global warming.
There is nothing more important than leaving this country and our entire planet habitable for our kids and our grandchildren. Climate change is real. It is caused by human activity, and we have a small window of opportunity to transform our energy system, cut carbon emission, and move in a very different direction. This campaign is about putting Americans back to work at decent paying jobs. Let's get started. Let's put $1 trillion over a 5-year period. Let's create and maintain 13 million jobs. Let's make our infrastructure stronger, safer, more efficient.
We must establish pay equity for women workers.
Bottom line is that if somebody works in this country for 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty.
The issue of wealth and income inequality is the great moral issue of our time. It is the great economic issue of our time. It is the great political issue of our time. This type of rigged economy is not what America is supposed to be about. This has got to change. And as your president, together, we are going to change it.
I will be working hard to overturn Citizens United. That is the undermining of American democracy and the qualities of this country which have made us the envy of the entire world. Today in America, we have enormous problems. They are solvable problems. This country belongs to all of us. We want to make policy that improves the lives of all of our people. That's how we transform America. Tonight really is an historical night, and all of us are part of making history. To the best of our knowledge, there has never been a political online organizing effort this early in a campaign which involved over 100,000 people in 3,500 locations in every state in the United States of America. That's pretty impressive, and I thank you all very much for making it happen. I am often asked by the media why there is so much excitement in our campaign. Why have so many people come out to our rallies? Why have we received over 325,000 individual contributions, more than any other candidate? Why are we seeing spontaneous uprisings, if you like, and meetings in cities and towns all over this country? And here is my answer. My answer is that the American people are saying loudly and clearly, enough is enough. This great country and our government belong to all of us and not just a handful of billionaires. Enough is enough. We cannot, as a nation, continue to have the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth. No, it is not acceptable. But I believe from the bottom of my heart, when millions of people stand together, when we overcome race issues, when we overcome questions of whether somebody was born in America or not, when we overcome issues of sexual orientation or gender issues, when we don't let our opponents divide us up by race or sexual orientation, all that stuff, when we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. I want to thank the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who are anxious to become part of our campaign, the almost 200,000 people who have already made campaign contributions, the many thousands of people who have come out in meetings all over this country. We had almost 6,000 people in Denver, 5,000 people in Minneapolis, New Hampshire, Iowa, huge crowds. And what all of this tells me is that our campaign is catching fire. We have real momentum. And the reason we have momentum is we are talking about the real issues that are impacting the American people. We are talking about the need for a political revolution, which says enough is enough, that the billionaire class cannot have it all. We are honest enough to discuss the fact that for 40 years, the middle class of this country, the great middle class, has been disappearing, while at the same time we see massive levels of income and wealth inequality. We are talking in our campaign about the need to create millions of jobs, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, raising the minimum wage to a living wage, pay equity for women workers. We are talking about the real attack on the fundamentals of American democracy by this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, which is allowing the Koch brothers and other billionaires to buy politicians right and left. We are also talking about exactly what the Pope talked about last week, and that is the planetary crisis of climate change and our moral responsibility to leave this planet in a way that's habitable for our kids and our grandchildren by doing everything that we can to transform our energy system away from fossil fuels into energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And another issue that we have been raising very loudly is the need to make college education available to all, regardless of the income of the families. And that's why I've introduced legislation to create public colleges and universities in America where tuition is free. And what an extraordinary step forward that will be for our country. So again, thank all of you for your help on this campaign. Please help us in any way we can. We know we're going to be outspent. We don't have a super PAC. But I also know that at the end of the day, what matters is grassroots involvement, and that's what we're doing. We need your help to keep expanding, and thanks so much for all you're doing. Take care.
This is clearly the largest turnout we have had in this campaign today.
I think we have a message that is resonating all across this country.
What this campaign is about is to remind Americans that we live in a democratic society. We are going to vigorously participate in that democracy, and we're not going to let the billionaire class take it away from us.
We as a nation today have more income and wealth inequality than any major industrialized nation on earth.
What is going on in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world when so many people are struggling?
Maybe we should have a trade policy which represents the working families of this country, that rebuilds our manufacturing base rather than just representing the CEOs of large multinational corporations.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Wow, this is just the outside. A movement of people which stands up and says loudly and clearly that this great nation of ours and our government belong to all of the people and not just a handful.
I think I'm the only candidate who is prepared to take on the billionaire class, which now controls our economy and increasingly controls the political life of this country. So we need a political revolution, in my view, where people begin to stand up and fight and take on the big money interest. If we don't have that, no president, not the best president in the world, will ever be able to accomplish anything.
Give me a roadmap. How's this going to work?
Well, let me tell you this. The reason I'm running, you see that kid's house over there and all these little toys for the kids? I got 7 grandchildren. And I want America to be a country in which they can flourish.
There is nothing more important than leaving our planet healthy and habitable.
According to the scientific community, climate change is the great planetary crisis we now face. You think we might want to be discussing that issue?
We've been waiting for this! I believe that we will win!
And I ask you and people throughout this country to join us in this campaign to build a future that works for all of us and not just the few people on top. Thank you again for coming out on this beautiful day. Thank you.